My name is Odessa Bloom, and I am 72 years old. The morning I decided to protect myself instead of my son, I was standing in my kitchen, barefoot on the cold floor, staring at a crack in the wall that I didn't remember being there. My hands were shaking, not because I was afraid, but because I knew something was about to end. Before I go any further, let me say this. If you love real, emotional stories about strong women, family betrayal, and second chances later in life, please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss stories like mine. And please tell me in the comments which part of the country you're watching from, so I know who is here with me right now. Because what I did that morning shocked everyone. Even me. The sound that started everything was my son's voice. Loud, angry, close. "Mama," he shouted from the hallway, "why you always asking questions?" I closed my eyes. That voice used to sound like a little boy calling for help. Now it sounded like a warning. My son's name is Caleb. He is 43 years old. And for most of his life, he believed I would always protect him. From trouble, from consequences, from himself. And I did. For far too long. That morning, Caleb had come over early. Too early. No call. No knock. Just the sound of the door opening like it belonged to him. I was making tea when he walked in. He smelled like last night. Like sweat and smoke and something bitter. "Mama, I need you to talk to someone for me," he said. I didn't turn around. "Talk to who?" I asked. He hesitated. "That don't matter," he replied quickly. "Just say what I tell you." My stomach tightened. I turned to face him. He was standing too close. His jaw was tight. His eyes were restless. "What did you do?" I asked. He rolled his eyes. "Why you always gotta ask that?" he snapped. "You my mama, you supposed to have my back." There it was. The sentence that had ruled my life for decades. "You my mama, you supposed to protect me." I walked past him and sat at the table. "Sit down," I said. He didn't. "I don't got time for this," he said. "Just do this one thing." "One thing," I repeated softly. That phrase echoed in my head. Because every bad choice he ever made started with one thing. Caleb leaned forward. "They asking questions," he said quietly. "You just gotta say I was with you." My heart dropped. "When?" I asked. "Last night," he replied too fast. I looked at him carefully. "You weren't here last night," I said. He shrugged. "They don't know that." I stared at him. "I do," I replied. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You acting like it's a big deal," he said. "You done this before." And that was the moment. The moment the crack in the wall felt like it split wider. Because he was right. I had done this before. More times than I could count. I remembered the first time. He was 16. Police at the door. A broken window. A scared boy behind me. He was with me, I said that night. I told myself it was love. Then again at 22. A fight. A lie. A promise to do better. He didn't mean it, I said. Then again at 30. Lost job. Borrowed money. No repayment. He's trying, I said. Every time, I stepped in front of him like a shield. And every time, he learned the same lesson. "Mama will fix it." "Mama," Caleb said, his voice dropping, "don't do this now." I looked at my hands. They were old hands. Wrinkled. Tired. Hands that had worked. Hands that had wiped tears. Hands that had signed papers they didn't understand just to help him. "What happened last night?" I asked again. He clenched his jaw. "Nothing," he said, "just some misunderstanding." I stood up slowly. "You raised your voice at me," I said. "So," he snapped, "I ain't touch you." I felt something cold move through my chest. That sentence scared me more than yelling ever had. "You scared me," I said quietly. He froze. "Mama, don't be dramatic," he said. "You know I'd never hurt you." I searched his face. The boy I once knew was not there. Only a man who expected protection. I walked to the window and looked outside. The sun was coming up. Bright. Clear. A new day. And I realized something painful. If I protected him again, I would lose myself. "Mama," he said again, softer now, "just say the words." I turned back to him. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. "No," I said. The word fell between us like glass. He blinked. "What?" he asked. I said no, I repeated. He laughed nervously. "You playing?" he said. "I'm not," I replied. His face changed. Anger rose fast. "You serious right now?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "You really gonna let them come after me?" he demanded. I swallowed. "I'm not stopping them anymore," I said. His voice rose. "You my mother," he shouted. "You supposed to protect me." I felt tears burn my eyes. "I protected you for 40 years," I said. "Now I have to protect myself." He stared at me like he didn't recognize me. "You choosing them over me," he said. I shook my head. "No," I replied. "I'm choosing me." There was a loud knock at the door. 3 sharp knocks. Caleb turned pale. "Mama," he whispered, "don't do this." I walked past him. Each step felt heavy. The knock came again. My hand hovered over the door handle. My heart was screaming, but my voice was calm. I opened the door. And that's where I'll stop for now. Because what stood on the other side of that door changed everything. The knock came again. Louder this time. Not angry. Not rushed. Certain. I stood with my hand on the door handle, my heart beating so hard it felt like it might break free from my chest. Behind me, I could hear Caleb breathing fast. I didn't turn around. If I did, I knew I might weaken. For 40 years, I had turned around. This time, I didn't. I opened the door. 2 men stood on my porch. Both wore plain clothes, no uniforms, calm faces. One held a small notebook, the other had his hands folded in front of him. "Good morning, ma'am," the taller one said. "Are you Odessa Bloom?" "Yes," I replied. My voice surprised me. It was steady. "We're here to ask a few questions," he said gently. "May we come in?" Before I could answer, Caleb stepped forward behind me. "She don't gotta talk to nobody," he snapped. "Y'all got the wrong place." The shorter man looked past me and met Caleb's eyes. "Sir," he said calmly, "we're not here for trouble, we just need the truth." The truth. That word felt heavy in my ears. I stepped aside. "You can come in," I said. Caleb grabbed my arm. "Mama," he hissed, "what are you doing?" I pulled my arm away. "I'm telling the truth," I said quietly. We sat at the table. The same table where I had fed Caleb when he was small. The same table where I had lied for him when he was grown. The taller man opened his notebook. "Mrs. Bloom," he said, "were you with your son last night between 10 and midnight?" Caleb jumped in fast. "Yes," he said, "she was." "No," I said. The word fell hard. Caleb's head snapped toward me. "Mama," he shouted. I kept my eyes on the man with the notebook. "No," I repeated. "I was alone." The room went quiet. The shorter man nodded slowly. "Thank you for being honest," he said. Caleb pushed back his chair, so hard it scraped the floor. "You lying," he yelled. "Why would you say that?" I finally looked at him. "Because it's true," I said. He stared at me like I had just betrayed him in the worst way possible. "You always said you'd have my back," he shouted. I felt tears rise, but I didn't wipe them away. I said that when you were a child, I replied, not when you became a danger. The words shocked us both. The taller man asked a few more questions. I answered calmly. Where I was, what I heard, what I knew. I didn't add anything extra. I didn't protect. I didn't cover. I just told the truth. When they finished, the men stood up. Thank you, Mrs. Bloom, the taller one said. That was very helpful. They turned toward the door. Caleb stepped in front of them. You can't just take her word, he shouted. She's old, she forgets things. The shorter man looked at him carefully. Sir, he said, what she did today took courage. Caleb scoffed. She's supposed to be on my side, he snapped. The man nodded once. Parents protect children, he said, but adults answer for themselves. Then they left. The door closed. And just like that, the house felt different. Bigger. Colder. Caleb turned to me slowly. His eyes were wild. You set me up, he said. I shook my head. No, I replied. I stopped lying. He paced the room like a caged animal. You know what they think now, he shouted. They think I did something. I sat down. If you didn't, I said, the truth will help you. He laughed sharply. You always acting holy now, he sneered. Since when you care about truth? That one hurt. Because it was fair. I started caring when lying started hurting me, I said. Caleb stopped packing and leaned over the table. You just threw me away, he said. I looked up at him. No, I said softly. I threw away fear. He stared at me, breathing hard. You think this makes you strong? He asked. I nodded slowly. Yes, I said, stronger than I've ever been. He grabbed his jacket. You happy now? He asked bitterly. No, I replied, but I'm free. He slammed the door behind him. The sound echoed through the house. I flinched, but only for a second. Then I exhaled. I sat alone for a long time. My hands trembled. My chest ached. I cried. Not loud sobs. Quiet tears that slid down my face and dropped onto the table where lies once lived. I cried for the baby I raised. I cried for the boy I protected. I cried for the man he became. And then I stopped. Because something else rose up inside me. Relief. The phone rang that afternoon. I almost didn't answer. But I did. Odessa, my sister Ruth asked. What's going on? Caleb just called me screaming. I closed my eyes. I told the truth, I said. There was silence. Then Ruth sighed. About time, she said. That surprised me. You knew, I asked. She hesitated. I suspected, she admitted. We all did. I swallowed hard. And nobody told me, I asked. We tried, she said gently. You wouldn't hear it. That hurt more than anything Caleb had said. That evening, I locked my door. Not because I was scared, but because I was done being available. I made myself a simple meal. I ate slowly. I slept deeply. For the first time in years, my body rested without fear of footsteps in the night. The next morning, my phone buzzed again. A message from Caleb. You really did me like that. I stared at it. My fingers hovered over the screen. Then I put the phone down. I didn't reply. That was new. Around noon, another knock came. This one was softer. I opened the door. It was my neighbor, Mrs. Ellis. I heard some noise yesterday, she said carefully. You okay? I smiled faintly. I am now, I replied. She nodded like she understood more than she said. That afternoon, I sat in the same kitchen chair and realized something important. Protecting Caleb had been my identity for decades. Without it, I didn't know who I was yet. But I was ready to find out. As the sun set, I felt something settle in my chest. Not peace. Not yet. But certainty. I had broken the pattern. And once a pattern breaks, it does not go quietly. Because tomorrow, Caleb would come back. Not to apologize, but to demand. And that confrontation would test me more than anything that had come before. Caleb came back just after sunset. I knew it was him before I even heard the knock. My body knew. The muscles in my shoulders tightened. My chest felt heavy. The air in the house changed, like it always did when he was near. For years, my body had learned to sense his moods before my mind could catch up. That was something I had never protected myself from. Not until now. The knock was sharp. Not polite. Not patient. 3 hard knocks that said he expected the door to open. I stood in the hallway, my hand resting on the back of a chair. My heart beat fast, but my feet did not move right away. I counted to 5 in my head. You don't owe him speed, I told myself. I walked to the door slowly and opened it. Caleb stood there with his arms crossed, jaw tight, eyes burning. You really gonna act like I don't exist now? He snapped. I stepped back and left the door open. Come in, I said. He hesitated, surprised. Then he walked in like the house still belonged to him. He didn't sit. He paced. You embarrassed me, he said. You know that. I closed the door behind him and leaned against it. I told the truth, I replied. You ain't have to do it like that, he shot back. In front of them. I nodded. That's usually where truth is asked for, I said. He laughed, but it wasn't funny. You always got something slick to say now, he muttered. He stopped packing and faced me. You think you better than me now? He asked. No, I said. I think I'm tired. That seemed to confuse him. Tired of what? He asked. I met his eyes. Tired of fixing, I said. Tired of lying, tired of being scared in my own house. His face darkened. You scared of me, he said. I didn't answer right away. Then I said, yes. The word hung in the air. Caleb froze. You lying, he said quietly. I wish I was, I replied. He ran a hand over his face. I never touched you, he said. I never hit you. I nodded. That's true, I said. Then what you talking about? He demanded. I took a breath. I'm talking about the way you stand too close, I said. The way your voice gets loud. The way I watch my words around you. His mouth opened, then closed. That's on you, he said, not me. I shook my head. No, I replied, that's on both of us. He scoffed. You acting like some victim now, he said. I straightened. I'm acting like a woman who finally sees the pattern, I said. He stepped closer. You always make things bigger than they are, he snapped. I raised my hand. Stop, I said. He stopped. That was new. You don't get to talk to me like that, I said calmly. Caleb stared at me. You changed, he said. Yes, I replied. I had to. He dropped into a chair and leaned forward, elbows on his knees. So what now? He asked. You just done with me? I shook my head. No, I said, but I'm done lying for you. He looked up. So you won't help me? He asked. I will help you grow, I said, not hide. He laughed bitterly. Same thing, he muttered. No, I replied, very different. There was a long silence. Caleb's shoulders sagged a little. You don't know what it's like out there, he said quietly. People don't care. I felt a familiar tug in my chest. The old instinct to soften. To rescue. I held onto the back of the chair. I know, I said, but lying didn't make it better either. He looked at the floor. They gonna come back, he said. Yes, I replied. And you won't say nothing, he asked. I'll say the truth, I said. He clenched his jaw. You choosing them, he repeated. I shook my head slowly. I'm choosing a life where I can sleep at night, I said. His phone buzzed. He looked at it, then cursed under his breath. They calling already, he said. I said nothing. He stood up abruptly. You happy now? He demanded. I looked at him with steady eyes. I'm not happy, I said, but I'm finally honest. He moved toward the door, then stopped. You always said a mother's love don't quit, he said. I walked closer, keeping space between us. My love didn't quit, I said. My silence did. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he opened the door. I hope you can live with this, he said. I nodded. I already am, I replied. He left. The door closed. I stood there, my heart racing, my hands shaking. But something inside me stayed firm. I had said what needed to be said. And I hadn't broken. Later that night, I sat alone and thought about all the times guilt had controlled me. How it wore my son's face. How it sounded like his voice. How it told me love meant sacrifice without limits. I saw it clearly now. That wasn't love. That was fear dressed up as duty. I slept with the light off that night. That may not sound like much, but for me, it meant everything. The next morning, I woke up to a message on my phone. Not from Caleb. From a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Bloom, this is Officer Harris. We need to speak with you again today. My heart skipped. Not with panic. With readiness. I sat at the table and folded my hands. I had broken the pattern once. Now I would have to keep breaking it. Because protecting myself wasn't a single moment. It was a choice I would have to make again. And again. And again. And the hardest test was still coming. Because next, Caleb would stop asking. And start blaming. The pressure did not come all at once. It came in pieces. Voices. Messages. Looks from people who had known me my whole life. And every one of them carried the same quiet question. How could a mother do that to her own son? The first call came from my sister, Ruth, early that morning. I hadn't even finished my tea. Odessa, she said, skipping hello, you need to be careful. I closed my eyes. Careful of what? I asked. Of how this looks, she replied. People are talking. I looked out the window at the street. People have always talked, I said. I just never listened before. She sighed. That boy is hurting, she said. So am I replied. There was silence on the line. By mid-morning, the calls kept coming. An aunt I hadn't heard from in years. A cousin who always had an opinion. Even someone from church. Each voice different. Each message the same. He's your son. You're his mother. You should have handled it quietly. Quietly. That word again. The same word that had kept me trapped for decades. Around noon, my doorbell rang. I didn't jump this time. I walked calmly to the door and opened it. It was my cousin Laverne. She stood with her purse clutched tight, lips pressed together. I came to talk some sense into you, she said. I stepped aside. Come in, I replied. She sat at the table and shook her head. I don't understand you, she said. I would never let outsiders deal with my child. I sat across from her. I did let outsiders deal with him, I said, because I couldn't anymore. She leaned forward. That boy needs you, she insisted. I nodded. Yes, I said, but not as a shield. She frowned. You acting brand new, she said. No, I replied. I'm acting like myself for the first time. She scoffed. Since when you stopped protecting your own? She asked. I folded my hands. Since protecting him started destroying me, I said. Her mouth opened. Then closed. She didn't have an answer for that. After she left, I sat alone at the table for a long time. The guilt crept in slowly. Like it always did. It sounded like Caleb's voice when he was little. Mama, please. It sounded like my own voice, years ago. If I don't help him, who will? I pressed my palms flat on the table. I will not confuse love with fear, I whispered. That afternoon, Officer Harris came by again. This time, he wasn't alone. Another officer stood beside him, quiet, observant. We just need to clarify a few things, Harris said gently. I nodded. Go ahead, I replied. They asked about Caleb's behavior over the years. Not just last night. Patterns. Tone. Temper. Moments I had brushed off as stress. As life. As my fault. I answered honestly. And with every answer, I felt something lift. Mrs. Bloom, Officer Harris said at one point, has your son ever made you feel unsafe? I hesitated, then nodded. Yes, I said. The word felt heavy. But right. He wrote it down. That mattered. When they left, I sat back and stared at the ceiling. I realized something then. Telling the truth was not just about Caleb. It was about rewriting my own story. A story where I was always strong for others. And weak with myself. Later that evening, my phone buzzed again. A message from Caleb. You got everybody against me now. Hope you proud. My chest tightened. I typed back. Then erased it. Typed again. Erased again. Finally, I put the phone down. Silence was not punishment. It was protection. That night I dreamed. I was standing in a river, water rising around my waist. Caleb stood on the shore, yelling. Come back, he shouted. I tried. But every time I stepped toward him, the water pulled me down. Then I turned the other way. And the water lowered. I woke up shaking. But clear. The next morning, I went to church. Not for answers. For grounding. People stared. Some smiled stiffly. Some looked away. I sat in the same pew I always had. And for the first time, I didn't feel invisible. I felt seen. After service, an older woman I barely knew touched my arm. You did a hard thing, she said quietly. I wish I had done it sooner. Tears filled my eyes. Thank you, I whispered. As the week went on, the pressure did not stop. But something else grew stronger. My spine. My voice. My ability to say no, without explaining myself. I understood now. Protecting myself was not a single choice. It was a daily one. And tomorrow, Caleb would make his biggest move yet. Not with anger. Not with shouting. But with something far more dangerous. Guilt wrapped in apology. And that would test me more than anything before. Caleb came back 3 days later. Not loud. Not angry. Not demanding. He came back quiet. That alone scared me. I was in the living room folding laundry when I heard the knock. It was soft this time, almost polite. I didn't jump. I didn't rush. I stood there for a moment and listened. Mom, his voice called. It's me. I closed my eyes. For years, that word, Mom, had been my weakness. I opened the door. Caleb stood there with his head down. His shoulders were slumped. His eyes were red and swollen. He looked smaller somehow. Younger, like the boy I used to hold when he cried over scraped knees and broken toys. I just want to talk, he said softly. I stepped aside. Come in, I said. He sat on the couch and rubbed his hands together. He didn't look around like he used to, didn't act like he owned the place. I messed up, he said. I didn't answer right away. I know I did, he continued quickly. I've been thinking a lot. I sat in the chair across from him, keeping space between us. I shouldn't have yelled, he said. I shouldn't have talked to you like that. I nodded slowly. You shouldn't have, I agreed. He swallowed. I was scared, he said. I felt like everything was closing in on me. I watched him carefully. Fear I understood. Manipulation I knew too well. He looked up at me, tears rolling down his face. "I need you, Mama," he said. "I really do." My chest tightened. This was the moment. The one that had trapped me every time before. "I can't do this alone," he went on. "They watching me, people judging me, I don't know how to fix it." I leaned back in my chair and took a slow breath. "What do you want from me?" I asked. He didn't hesitate. "I need you to talk to them again," he said. "Just explain, tell them I'm trying." There it was. The ask. Different tone. Same request. I felt something heavy settle in my chest. "Caleb," I said gently, "that's not help, that's protection." He shook his head fast. No, it's different now," he said. "I've changed." I looked at him steadily. "Change takes time," I said, "and it doesn't start with lying." His face crumpled. "So you just gonna abandon me?" he cried. The word hit hard. Abandon. Every mother's nightmare. "I'm not abandoning you," I said carefully. "I'm stepping back." "That's the same thing," he shouted. "No," I replied. "Abandonment is leaving you helpless. Stepping back is letting you stand." He wiped his face angrily. "You sound like them now," he snapped. I didn't flinch. "I sound like someone who learned," I said. He stood up suddenly and started packing. "You don't understand," he said. "Out there, nobody cares." I nodded. "I know," I said. "That's why I raised you to care about yourself." He stopped packing. "You raised me to survive," he said. "And part of surviving," I replied, "is facing consequences." He sank back onto the couch. "What if I can't?" he whispered. That question was real. It wasn't a trick. I felt it. I stood up and walked closer, but not too close. "I believe you can," I said, "but I won't do it for you anymore." He looked up. "So that's it?" he asked. "You done saving me?" I shook my head. "I'm done sacrificing myself," I said. Silence filled the room. Heavy. Caleb stared at the floor for a long time. "You really serious?" he said finally. "Yes," I replied. He nodded slowly. "I never thought you'd choose yourself over me," he said. I swallowed. "I didn't choose myself over you," I said. "I chose a healthy way to love you." He stood up and walked toward the door. Then he stopped. "If something happens to me," he said quietly, "that's on you." The words cut deep. Old guilt tried to rise. I felt it. I named it. And I let it pass. "I love you," I said calmly, "but I will not be threatened into lying again." He opened the door. "I hope you can live with this," he said. I met his eyes. "I already am," I replied. He left. After the door closed, I sat down and pressed my hand to my chest. My heart was pounding. My legs felt weak. But something inside me was still standing. Strong. That night I cried. Not because I doubted myself, but because loving someone and setting boundaries hurts. It hurts in a clean way. A healing way. The next morning, my phone buzzed. A message from Officer Harris. "Mrs. Bloom, thank you for your cooperation. We will be moving forward." I stared at the message for a long moment. This was real now. No more turning back. As the day went on, I realized something important. Caleb's tears didn't mean he was healed. My strength didn't mean I was done hurting. But growth rarely looks gentle at first. I stood at the window that evening, watching the sun sink low. For the first time, I didn't feel responsible for fixing what I didn't break. And tomorrow, the world would ask me a new question. Not about Caleb, but about me, and how far I was willing to go to stay safe. The question came the next morning. Not from my family. Not from my neighbors. From myself. I stood in the bathroom, brushing my hair slowly, watching my reflection in the mirror. My eyes looked tired, but clearer than they had in years. How far are you willing to go to stay safe? The answer scared me, because it meant doing something I had spent my whole life avoiding. Putting things in writing. For most of my life, I believed love meant keeping things inside the family. No records. No reports. No paper trails. Don't air dirty laundry, my mother used to say. Handle it at home. So I did. Over and over. Until home stopped feeling safe. I set my hairbrush down and walked into the kitchen. My phone was on the table where I had left it. The message from Officer Harris was still there. We will be moving forward. Those words echoed in my head. Moving forward meant more than answering questions. It meant decisions. Real ones. I made breakfast but didn't eat much. My stomach felt tight. Outside, the day was bright and normal, like nothing in my life had shifted at all. That's the strange thing about hard choices. The world doesn't stop to watch you make them. Around mid-morning, I heard footsteps outside. Heavy ones. My heart jumped. I moved to the window and looked out. It was Caleb. It was Mrs. Ellis, my neighbor, walking past with her grocery bags. I let out a slow breath. Even when he wasn't there, my body stayed ready. That's when I knew. Something had to change. I sat down at the table and opened my old notebook. Not the one with recipes and phone numbers. The other one. The one I had started writing in years ago, then stopped. Dates. Moments. Words that stayed with me long after arguments ended. I flipped through the pages. Caleb yelled again tonight. Felt scared, but told myself it was stress. He slammed the door. I couldn't sleep. I stared at those words. I had written them, then ignored them. My hands shook as I reached for my phone. I opened a new note and typed. This is what has been happening. Then I stopped. I stared at the screen for a long time. Putting it in writing made it real in a way nothing else had. It wasn't just memory anymore. It was record. I thought about the knock on the door. The way Caleb stood too close. The way my voice had gone quiet over the years. The way my body had learned fear before my mind would admit it. I kept typing. Slowly. Carefully. Truthfully. By noon, my head hurt. But my chest felt lighter. I had written everything I could remember. Not to punish him. Not to get revenge. But to protect myself. The phone rang. I flinched. Then answered. Mrs. Bloom, Officer Harris said. I wanted to follow up. Are you somewhere safe right now? The question caught me off guard. Yes, I said. I'm at home. There was a pause. I need to ask you something important, he continued. Have you considered putting boundaries in place officially? Officially. The word hung in the air. You mean paperwork? I asked. Yes, he replied. Something that protects you if things escalate. I swallowed. I've never done anything like that, I said. I understand, he said gently. Most people don't until they have to. After the call ended, I sat very still. I thought about all the times I told myself he'd never really hurt me. I thought about how close that sentence had come to being a lie. That afternoon, I drove somewhere I never imagined going. A small office with plain walls and quiet chairs. A place that smelled like paper and coffee. A place where people came when they were done pretending things would fix themselves. The woman behind the desk looked up. How can we help you? She asked kindly. I hesitated. Then spoke. I need to protect myself, I said. The words felt strange in my mouth, but also right. She didn't look surprised. She nodded. That's a strong thing to say, she replied. She handed me forms. Simple ones. Name. Address. Relationship. Each line felt like a small step away from the woman I used to be, and toward the one I was becoming. As I filled them out, My hands shook again. Not from fear this time. From grief. Because admitting you need protection means admitting love didn't save you. When I was done, the woman looked over the papers. "We'll process this," she said. "Someone will follow up with you." I nodded. "Thank you," I said. My voice cracked. She smiled gently. "You did the right thing," she said. Driving home, I cried. Not loud sobs. Quiet tears that blurred the road. I cried for Caleb. For myself. For the years I spent confusing endurance with love. That evening, my phone buzzed. A message from Caleb. "Why you doing all this to me?" I stared at the screen. For once, I knew the answer clearly. I typed, "I'm doing it for me." Then I turned the phone off. As night fell, I locked my doors. Not in fear. In peace. I sat in my chair and breathed. Slow. Deep. Steady. I knew this step would change things. Caleb would feel it. He would react. He always did. But this time, I wouldn't be standing alone in front of him. Because protecting myself was no longer just a feeling. It was a decision. Written down. Recognized. Real. And tomorrow, that decision would be tested in ways I wasn't ready for yet. Because when protection becomes official, resistance often follows. The reaction came faster than I expected. I had barely slept that night. Every sound outside made my heart jump: the hum of a car passing, a dog barking, the wind brushing the side of the house. Even though the doors were locked, my body stayed alert, like it had learned a lesson it refused to forget. Morning light finally crept through the curtains, pale and soft. I sat at the kitchen table with my hands wrapped around a mug of tea, staring at nothing. Then my phone buzzed. I didn't need to look to know who it was. "Caleb." I let it buzz. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then it stopped. A moment later, it buzzed again. This time, a message. "You really went that far." My chest tightened. I didn't reply. I had already said what needed to be said. By mid-morning, the house felt too quiet. That was when I heard footsteps on the porch. Heavy. Vast. Familiar. My stomach dropped. I stood slowly and walked to the window, careful not to be seen. I looked out through the corner of the curtain. Caleb stood on my porch. His hands were shoved deep into his pockets. His shoulders were stiff. He wasn't knocking. He was waiting. My heart started racing. I told myself to breathe. "You are not powerless," I reminded myself. "You are not alone." I stepped away from the window and walked to the phone. I didn't call anyone yet. I needed to hear what he would say. The knock came suddenly. Hard. Sharp. Not asking. Telling. "Mama," he called out, "I know you in there." I stayed where I was. The knock came again. Louder. "I just want to talk," he shouted. My hands shook, but my feet stayed planted. "I know what you did," he said through the door. "You trying to make me look dangerous." I closed my eyes. This was the moment Officer Harris had warned me about. "Open the door," Caleb demanded. "We family." I stepped closer, but not to the door. "I will not open the door," I said loudly. "You need to leave." There was a pause. Then a laugh. Dry. Sharp. "You serious right now?" he said. "You really scared of me?" I swallowed. "Yes," I said. The word echoed in the hallway. That was when his tone changed. "You always doing this," he said, "making me the bad guy." I didn't answer. "You know I wouldn't hurt you," he continued. "You my mama." My heart ached. But I stayed silent. "Mama," he said again, softer now. "Come on, just open the door." I walked back to the table and sat down. "No," I said calmly. "You need to leave." The porch creaked. I imagined him shifting his weight. You think some paper gonna protect you, he sneered. You think they gonna save you. My hands clenched. They already did, I replied. That's when the anger came back. You think you better than me now, he shouted. After everything I've been through. I stood up. This conversation is over, I said. You need to go. He kicked the door. Once. Not hard enough to break it. Hard enough to scare me. My heart jumped into my throat. That was it. I reached for my phone and dialed. My fingers moved on their own. When the line connected, my voice was steady. This is Odessa Bloom, I said. My son is at my house. I've asked him to leave. He won't. I gave the address. I hung up. Mama, Caleb yelled. Who you calling? I didn't answer. Another kick hit the door. Harder this time. Don't do this, he shouted. You always take it too far. I pressed my back against the wall and slid down into a chair. My body shook, but my mind was clear. This is why you did this, I told myself. This is why you protected yourself. The sound of sirens grew in the distance. Caleb heard them too. He stopped yelling. What did you do? He asked, panic creeping into his voice. I stayed silent. The sirens grew louder. Closer. Then red and blue lights flashed through the windows. Damn it, Caleb muttered. I heard footsteps on the porch again, fast this time. Then voices. Sir, step away from the door. I stayed where I was, my hands gripping the edge of the table. There was shouting. Not from me. Not from the officers. From Caleb. This is crazy, he yelled. She my mother. Sir, calm down, an officer said. She lying, Caleb shouted. She always lying. The doorbell rang. I flinched. Mrs. Bloom, a voice called. It's the police. I stood slowly and walked to the door. My hand shook as I unlocked it. When I opened it, 2 officers stood there. Behind them, Caleb was being held at a distance. His face was red. His eyes wild. Are you okay, ma'am? One officer asked. I nodded. Yes, I said, I am now. They asked a few questions. I answered honestly. They asked if I wanted to press anything further. I hesitated, then shook my head. No, I said, I just want him gone. They nodded. Caleb looked at me like I had betrayed him beyond repair. You did this, he said. I met his eyes. No, I replied, you did. They led him away. He kept turning back, like he expected me to change my mind. I didn't. When the officers left, the house felt very still. Too still. I locked the door and leaned against it. My legs gave out. I slid down to the floor and cried. Not because I regretted my choice, but because it hurt to see it proven necessary. That evening, Officer Harris called. You did the right thing, he said. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. I was scared, I admitted. That doesn't mean you were wrong, he replied. As night fell, I sat in my chair and stared at the door. For the first time, I understood something clearly. Protecting yourself doesn't mean you stop loving someone. It means you stop letting love destroy you. But I also knew this wasn't over. Caleb wouldn't forget today. He wouldn't forgive it easily. And tomorrow, the question wouldn't be about safety. It would be about something even harder. Forgiveness. And whether loving myself meant letting go of the son I thought I knew. The house did not feel the same after that day. It was quieter, yes, but not the empty kind of quiet that makes your ears ring. It was a living quiet, a breathing quiet, like the walls themselves were finally resting after years of holding their breath. I noticed it first in the smallest things. The way the floorboards no longer made me flinch when they creaked. The way I could sit in my chair without listening for footsteps. The way my shoulders slowly dropped from around my ears, inch by inch. But peace did not come all at once. Peace came with questions, and stares, and whispers. The morning after the police took Caleb away from my porch, I woke up exhausted. Not the tired that sleep fixes, the deep kind that lives in your bones. I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time, my hands resting in my lap, feeling my heartbeat slow down to something normal again. I was safe, but I didn't feel strong yet. I felt exposed. When I stepped outside to get my mail, the sun was already high. The air smelled like fresh grass and early summer heat. Everything looked the same. But I knew better. Mrs. Ellis stood across the street, pretending to water her plants. She looked up when she saw me, then quickly looked away. I didn't blame her. People don't know where to look when the truth steps out into the open. Later that morning, my phone started ringing again. Not Caleb. Not the police. Family. My sister Ruth called first. I heard what happened, she said quietly. I could hear worry in her voice. I'm okay, I replied. She paused. I don't know what to say, she admitted. That makes two of us, I said gently. Another pause. Then she said, I didn't think it would get that far. I closed my eyes. Neither did I replied, but it did. An hour later, my cousin Laverne left a voicemail. Not angry this time. Careful. Odessa, I just want you to know people are talking. Some are worried. Some are confused. Just be careful, okay? Be careful. That phrase again. I sat at the table and stared at my phone. For years, be careful had meant stay quiet. Now it meant something else. Protect yourself. In the afternoon, Officer Harris stopped by to check on me. He didn't come with lights or sirens. Just knocked gently. Just making sure you're all right, he said. I am, I replied honestly. He nodded. There may be more steps, he added. Paperwork, follow-ups. I exhaled slowly. I understand, I said. He looked at me carefully. You did the right thing, he said again. This time, I believed him. That night, I didn't cook much. Just soup. Something warm. I ate slowly, sitting at the table alone, listening to the sound of my spoon against the bowl. I realized something then. For the first time in years, I wasn't eating in a rush. I wasn't bracing myself for a door to open. I wasn't rehearsing excuses in my head. I was just eating. Sleep came easier than I expected. But my dreams were heavy. Not nightmares. Memories. Moments I had pushed aside for years came back, one by one. Caleb slamming doors. Caleb shouting my name. Caleb standing too close, his voice sharp. I woke up before dawn with tears on my face. But I didn't feel broken. I felt like my mind was finally cleaning house. The next day, I went to the grocery store. It felt like a test. The automatic doors slid open, and cold air hit my skin. The store smelled like fruit and cleaning spray. Everything was normal. Too normal. I grabbed a cart and walked slowly through the aisles. That's when I noticed the looks. Not everyone stared. Some glanced and looked away. Some nodded politely. Some whispered when they thought I couldn't hear. I kept walking. My hands shook a little, but my legs didn't stop. At the checkout, the cashier smiled kindly. Good morning, ma'am, she said. Her tone was normal. Respectful. No judgment. Something in my chest loosened. On the drive home, I thought about how fear shrinks your world. How for years, my life had been reduced to avoiding moments, avoiding truth, avoiding myself. Now my world felt bigger, even though it was harder. That afternoon, a letter arrived. Official. Plain envelope. My name printed neatly on the front. My hands trembled as I opened it. More steps. More confirmation. More reality. I sat down and read it carefully. This was no longer just a family matter. This was my life. And it was moving forward, whether I felt ready or not. That evening, my phone buzzed again. A message. Not from Caleb. From a number I hadn't seen in years. My niece, Tanya. Aunt Odessa, I heard. I just want you to know I see you. I'm proud of you. I stared at the message. Tears blurred the screen. I typed back slowly. Thank you, that means more than you know. As night fell, the house felt different again. Not just quiet. Strong. Like it had chosen a side. I locked the doors, turned off the lights, and sat in my chair by the window. I thought about the woman I had been. The woman who believed love meant endurance. The woman who thought silence was safety. And I thought about the woman I was becoming. But peace never comes without resistance. I knew that. And as calm as the night felt, something inside me stayed alert. Because Caleb had been quiet. Too quiet. No calls. No messages. No anger. No apologies. Nothing. And that worried me more than shouting ever had. Just before midnight, my phone buzzed again. One message. From an unknown number. Short. Cold. You think this is over. My heart skipped. I stared at the screen. My hands went cold. This wasn't a plea. It wasn't guilt. It was something else. Something sharper. I set the phone down slowly. Breathed in. Breathed out. Whatever was coming next, I would face it standing. Because protecting myself had already changed everything. And tomorrow, that protection would be tested in a way I was not prepared for. I did not sleep after that message. Not because of panic, but because my body remembered. Fear has a way of knocking, even after you change the locks. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in my hand, staring at the words again and again. You think this is over. No name. No explanation. Just a promise. Or a threat. I stood up and checked every door. Front door locked. Back door locked. Windows shut tight. The house was quiet, too quiet. I reminded myself of the facts. Caleb was gone. There were records now. There were boundaries. But fear does not listen to logic. Fear listens to memory. I sat back down and breathed slowly, the way the counselor once taught me years ago. In through the nose. Out through the mouth. You are safe, I whispered to myself. I said it again. And again. By the third time, I almost believed it. Morning came slowly. Gray light crept through the curtains, soft and unsure. My eyes burned from staying open all night, but my mind felt sharp. This was not the fear of before. This fear did not freeze me. It focused me. The phone rang at 8:17 a.m. I answered it calmly. Mrs. Bloom, Officer Harris said, I'm glad you picked up. I closed my eyes. I got a message last night, I said before he could ask. There was a pause. What kind of message? He asked. I read it out loud. Another pause. Did you recognize the number? He asked. No, I replied. That's important, he said. I need you to forward it to us. I already did, I said. He exhaled. Good, he replied. That was the right thing. He asked me a few more questions. Had I seen Caleb? Had anyone been near the house? Did I feel safe right now? Yes, I said. No, I said. Yes, I said. But each answer carried weight. We may need to increase precautions, Officer Harris said. This doesn't mean you did anything wrong. I know, I replied. And I meant it. Years ago, I would have felt guilty for this. Like I had caused it. Now I understood something new. Responsibility and blame are not the same thing. That afternoon, I did something I never used to do. I told people the truth. Not everything, But enough. I told Ruth about the message. I told Mrs. Ellis next door. I told Tanya. Every time I spoke, the fear lost a little power. Because fear grows best in silence. Around noon, someone knocked on my door. Not Caleb. Not the police. It was Pastor Lewis from church. He stood there with his hands folded, eyes kind but serious. "I heard you had a hard week," he said gently. I nodded. "You could say that," I replied. "May I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside. "Yes," I said. We sat at the kitchen table. He didn't preach. Didn't judge. He just listened. When I told him about the message, his face tightened. "That's not okay," he said firmly. "No," I agreed. "And you don't deserve that," he added. Those words hit me harder than I expected. For so long, I believed I deserved discomfort, deserved tension, deserved to live on edge because I was a mother, because I had failed somewhere. Hearing someone say I didn't deserve fear felt strange. But good. That evening, as the sun dipped low, I went outside and sat on the porch. I needed air. I needed space. The neighborhood was quiet. Children rode bikes down the street. Someone laughed in the distance. Life was still happening. I had almost forgotten that. That's when I saw the car. Parked at the end of the block. Engine off. Lights dark. Not moving. My chest tightened. I stared at it, my eyes sharp. Was it paranoia? Or instinct? I stood up slowly and went back inside, locking the door behind me. I didn't panic. I prepared. I called Officer Harris again. "There's a car I don't recognize," I said calmly. "It's been sitting for a while." "Stay inside," he replied. "We're on our way." I sat in my chair and waited. My heart pounded, but my hands were steady. That was new. When the officers arrived, the car was gone. They searched the area anyway. Asked questions. Took notes. "You did the right thing calling," one of them said. I nodded. "I'm learning," I replied. That night, I realized something important. Fear no longer controlled my actions. It informed them. There was a difference. The next morning, the message spread. Not through phones. Through people. Whispers turned into conversations. Some people avoided me. Some approached me quietly and said, "I understand." Others said nothing at all. And I learned to let that be okay. In the afternoon, another message came. Different number. Shorter. "You didn't have to go this far." I stared at it. My fingers hovered over the screen. Then I typed back. I didn't go far. I finally stopped. I blocked the number. My hands shook afterward. But my spine stayed straight. That night, I dreamed again. But this dream was different. I was standing in my house, lights on, doors open. Caleb stood outside, knocking. Not shouting. Just knocking. I looked at him through the window. Then I turned away. I woke up with my heart racing. But I understood the dream. It wasn't about him. It was about me. About choosing myself again. By the end of the week, the messages stopped. No more threats. No more hints. Just silence. Real silence. Not the dangerous kind. The ending kind. Officer Harris called one last time. "We're moving forward," he said. "You won't need to handle this alone anymore." I closed my eyes. "Thank you," I said. As I hung up the phone, I felt something shift inside me. Fear had tried to come back. Had tried to reclaim its place. But it failed. Because I was no longer the woman who needed permission to be safe. Still, I knew one thing. This was not the end. Not yet. Because the hardest part wasn't surviving fear. It was deciding what to do when it was finally gone. And tomorrow. I would have to face that question, not as a mother protecting her son, but as a woman protecting her life. The morning I realized fear was no longer in charge, I woke up before the sun. Not because of anxiety, not because of noise, but because my body felt ready. I lay in bed for a long time, staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet. It was the same house, the same walls, the same bed I had slept in for years. But I was not the same woman. For the first time in my life, nothing felt like it was chasing me. I got up slowly and made my way to the kitchen. The floor was cold under my feet. I turned on the light and watched it fill the room. No flinching, no rush. I made tea and sat at the table, both hands wrapped around the warm cup. And that's when it hit me. There was nothing else I needed to do to survive. Everything from here on out was about how I wanted to live. For 72 years, my life had been shaped around other people's needs. My parents, my husband years ago, my son. I had measured my worth by how much I could carry. Pain, excuses, silence. I thought that was love. But love that erases you is not love. It's fear wearing a mask. My phone buzzed softly on the table. I didn't jump. I looked at it calmly. A message from Officer Harris. "Good morning, Mrs. Bloom. I just wanted to let you know everything is in motion. You won't be required to take any further action right now." I read it twice. Then once more. And for the first time since all this started, I smiled. Later that morning, I took a shower and stood under the warm water longer than usual. I let it run over my shoulders, my back, my hands. I imagined it washing off years of tension. Years of walking on eggshells. Years of telling myself, this is just how it is. When I stepped out, I wrapped myself in a towel and looked in the mirror. I didn't see a weak woman. I saw a tired one. A brave one. A woman who finally stopped apologizing for wanting peace. I got dressed in simple clothes, soft pants, a loose shirt. Nothing special, nothing dramatic. And yet, I felt more like myself than I ever had. I stepped outside and let the morning sun touch my face. The street was quiet. Normal. Safe. Around mid-morning, Ruth came by. She knocked gently. I opened the door and saw her standing there, eyes full of questions she didn't know how to ask. "Can I come in?" she said. "Yes," I replied to ply. "You can." She sat at the table, just like everyone else had. But this conversation felt different. "I didn't understand before," she admitted. "I thought you were being hard." I nodded. "I know," I said. She looked at her hands. "I see it now," she said quietly. "You weren't choosing against him, you were choosing to live." Those words landed softly in my chest. "Yes," I replied. "That's exactly it." She reached across the table and took my hand. "I'm proud of you," she said. This time, when the tears came, I didn't hold them back. In the afternoon, I did something small but important. I packed a box. Not with fear. With memories. Photos of Caleb as a child. Old school papers. Birthday cards. I didn't throw them away. I didn't cling to them either. I placed the box in the closet and closed the door gently. Love does not disappear just because boundaries exist. But it does change shape. As the sun began to set, I sat on my porch again. The same chair. The same view. But the world looked wider. Like it had space for me now. Mrs. Ellis waved from across the street. I waved back. Not out of politeness. Out of ease. That night, my phone buzzed one last time. A number I hadn't seen in days. "Caleb." I stared at the screen for a long moment. I didn't feel panic. I didn't feel guilt. I felt sadness. And clarity. The message read, "I don't know who I am without you covering for me." I closed my eyes. And for a moment, I allowed myself to grieve. Then I typed back, I hope you find out. I turned the phone off. I slept deeply that night. No dreams. No fear. Just rest. The next morning, I woke up knowing something important. This chapter of my life was complete. Not because everything was perfect, but because I had stopped betraying myself. If you're listening to my story right now, I want you to hear this clearly. Love does not require you to disappear. Being a mother does not mean being a shield forever. And protecting yourself is not selfish. It is survival. It is dignity. It is life. My name is Odessa Bloom. My son thought I would always protect him. The next morning, I protected myself instead. And that choice didn't destroy my life. It finally gave me one. Speech balloon, if this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more powerful grandma stories. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. You are not alone.